fourth grade. Today we're going to read the story Antarctic Journal, and I'm going to start by going over the vocabulary with you on page 232 in your workbook. The first word is anticipation, the act of anticipating, looking forward to, expectation. And then continent, one of the 7 great masses of land on Earth. The continents are North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. Our continent, of course, that we live on is North America. Convergence, act or process of meeting at a point. Depart, to go away, leave. Forbidding, causing fear or dislike, looking dangerous or unpleasant. Heaves, rises and falls. Icebergs, large masses of ice detached from a glacier and floating in the sea. So these are vocabulary words, and I will point them out in the story as we read. Okay, so the story is Antarctic Journal, 4 Months at the Bottom of the World by Jennifer Owings Dewey. And the genre is a journal. And a journal is a record of thoughts and events that are important to the writer. Think about what is important to Jennifer Owings Dewey as you read entries from the journal she kept in Antarctica. And remember, a journal is a diary, and she writes her day-to-day events and thoughts that she had while she was in Antarctica. All right, and the question we're going to think about is, what would you expect to see and do at the bottom of the world? Okay, so the first date we have is November the 12th. So November 12th, depart from home in the early morning to be gone 4 months to Antarctica, a part of the planet as remote as the moon in its own way. The woman sitting next to me on the shuttle is headed for San Antonio, Texas. She has more luggage than I do. For millions of years, Antarctica, the fifth largest continent, has been in the grip of an ice age. It is the windiest, coldest, most forbidding region on Earth, and I am heading straight for it. Goodbye, America, I whisper, as the airplane heaves off the ground with a shuddering roar. See you later. So we have 4 vocabulary words on these 2 pages. First we have depart. Depart means to go away or leave. She is leaving America, heading for Antarctica. Okay. Continent. Remember, continent is one of the 7 great masses of land on Earth. Forbidding, causing fear or dislike, looking dangerous or unpleasant. And heaves, rises and falls. Notice all of the superlative adjectives here on page 589. We say that Antarctica is the windiest, coldest, most forbidding region on Earth. So that's compared to all the other places on Earth. It is the windiest, coldest, and most forbidding place on Earth. So let's look at her journal entry again for November 12th and think about what the main idea is for her journal entry. So to better understand the main idea at the beginning of the selection, it may help to understand the selection better to understand the main idea. I see this is a journal entry for November 12th. The first paragraph gives the most important idea for the entry. The author is traveling to Antarctica and will be gone for 4 months. So that's your main idea, that the author is traveling to Antarctica and will be gone for 4 months. All right. The other paragraphs provide details that support the main idea. One detail is that she is traveling by airplane. Okay. Another detail is that she whispers goodbye to America as the plane takes off. So how do you think she feels about going to Antarctica? She probably feels excited and maybe a little bit scared about going there because it is the windiest, coldest, and most forbidding region on Earth. And let's look at the map here to see where the South Pole is. Okay, and we can look at the map and see that it's right there in the center of Antarctica. So Antarctica is at the South Pole. Now let's look back at the first paragraph here and try to find the main idea of just this one paragraph. For millions of years, Antarctica, the 5th largest continent, has been in the grip of an ice age. It is the windiest, coldest, most forbidding region on Earth, and I am heading straight for it. So the main idea of that paragraph would be that Antarctica is the windiest and coldest place on Earth. Let's turn the page. And now we have a journal entry for November 17th. So there's not one for every day. So the first one was November 12th. Now we're to November 17th. We flew from Miami to Santiago, Chile. Early the next morning, we boarded a plane bound for Punta Arenas, a town at the southern tip of Chile. We landed and were driven to a hangar-like building where we received our Antarctic clothing issue on loan for the length of our stay, to be returned when we headed back. Our next stop was the pier where the Polar Duke, our ship, was tied up. I was shown to my cabin, a space so tiny I wished I were an elf. A desk and chair are bolted to the floor. The bedding is a well-padded sleeping bag. So let's look here. The desk and chair are bolted to the floor. Why do you think that they might be bolted to the floor so that they can't move? Okay, well, you know that the chair and desk are in the cabin of the ship, and that the ship moves up and down and rolls sometimes, and a sea voyage can be rough. So the chair and desk would probably move around the cabin if they were not bolted to the floor. We're off this morning. Clear skies, cool breeze, and no chop. The ship heaves and rolls like the smallish, sturdy, seaworthy vessel that it is. I make a nest in one of the boats tied on a deck, a cozy spot to spend hours drawing or just looking. What do you think the author right there means when she says, I make a nest? Right? She means that she prepares a space in the boat to make herself comfortable for a long time. Notice that this story is also being told from first-person point of view, since it's a journal, and we know that because of all the I's. I resist going below to sleep or eat. There is too much to take in. Rolling seas, salt spray, broad-winged seabirds soaring inches above the wave tops. The sun never sets. It lowers and rolls lazily along the northern horizon before rising again. I shiver with anticipation when we leave the calm waters of the Beagle Channel and enter Drake Passage. Let's look at this paragraph here. What human quality does the author use to describe the sun in the last paragraph on page 590? All right, the human quality that the author gives the sun is laziness, because it says it lowers and rolls lazily along the northern horizon. 2 days pass, and we cross the Antarctic convergence. Okay, that's one of your vocabulary words, convergence. Convergence is act or process of meeting at a point. Along this invisible line, warm northern water meets cold southern water. So that's what converges or meets, the warm northern water and the cold southern water. The layering of warm and cold and the upwelling that results creates ideal conditions for an abundance of life in the seas. From the convergence on, we are in Antarctica. A day later, the ship's motor stops humming. From the bridge, I look out over the bow. A group of whales breaks the surface of the sea, spy-hopping, heads pointing straight up out of the water. They slap their flukes and roll playfully. Humpbacks, one of the crew says. Whales have the right-of-way in these waters. We stop when we see them, turn the engines off, and let them pass before we start up again. It's good to know an ocean exists where whales have the right-of-way over ships. And here we have a picture of humpback whales. Okay, now we're at November 18th, and now she's at Palmer Station. Dear T, Palmer Station is a group of insulated metal buildings housing 50 people comfortably. The station was built on Anvers Island. You don't know you're on an island because permanent ice fills the gap between Anvers and the mainland. We learned the rules the first night. No travel alone, except to climb the glacier behind Palmer, flagged with poles to show the safest way up. We sign out when leaving, giving a departure hour and an estimated time of return. We are given walkie-talkies and check with base every hour. If we're half an hour off schedule, someone comes looking, unless a storm blows in. If it's too dangerous for anyone to come after us, we are expected to wait out the bad weather. The sunscreen they pass out is the only kind strong enough. We are ordered never to forget to use it. Tomorrow, we learn about the Zodiac's small rubber boats with outboard motors. I'm excited about what comes next and sleepy. Much love, Mom. So she must be writing to a child because she signs it Mom. Okay, so let's look at the second paragraph here. How does the author organize the information here in the second paragraph? Well, first, she states the rules, that we learn the rules, and then she tells all the rules. And there are a lot of rules. And notice all the pictures. Dressed for field work. Look at how many clothes she's wearing. Okay, this is the typical room, but it's not hers. And the view looking away from Palmer. And this is Palmer Station. That's where she was. All right, let's go on to the next page, November 27th, Lickfield Island. In fair weather, I go to Lickfield Island and spend the day, sometimes the night. Lickfield is 3 miles from Palmer by Zodiac, a protected island visited by 2 or 3 people a year. Before going to Lickfield, I'm shown how to walk on open ground in Antarctica. An inch of moss takes 100 years to grow. The careless scuff of a boot heel could rip out 200 years of growth in seconds. Why does the author need to learn how to walk on open ground? She needs to learn how to walk on open ground because if she isn't careful when walking, she could rip up moss that took 200 years to grow. I pack my food and extra clothes in a waterproof sea bag. A day pack holds pencils, pens, and paper for drawing and writing. There is no fresh water on the island. I carry 2 one-gallon canteens. Each island has an emergency cache of food and supplies, marked with the flag, available if a person gets stranded during a storm. Alone after being dropped on the island, I hear birds call, the whine of the wind, the waves pounding gravel shores, and no human sounds except my breathing. Twilight falls, and I crawl into my tent, alert and unable to sleep for a long time, listening to the sounds of the Antarctic night. And we have a little extra information here. The emergency cache in Lickfield contained a tarp, blankets, rope, candles, matches, anchovy paste, crackers, and chocolate. Okay, now we're on December 15th, visiting Old Palmer, and we see a picture of a Gentoo parent feeding chicks. And then we have traveling by Zodiac, and then Gentoos on nests. We can see that Gentoos must be penguins. Dear B, I am in a tiny office behind the kitchen. Supper is over. I came to find a quiet time and write you. It's strange to write at night by the light of the sun. Today, I went with a penguin scientist to Old Palmer, 20 minutes by Zodiac from New Palmer. Not used for years, the base is empty of life except for a small colony of Gentoo penguins. A few of the birds have built stone nests on top of abandoned oil drums and other debris left behind. The chicks have orange spots on their bills and are identical to the parents, only smaller. They sit half squashed under a parent's white belly, black-billed faces poking out, eyes blinking. A sunny day, 32 degrees, dangerously hot for the chicks. I've seen some keel over dead on days like this, their blubber-rich bodies unable to tolerate temperatures above freezing. A parent penguin suffering heat stroke will not abandon a nest. It will fall dead in a heap first. We had a scary encounter on the way back from Old Palmer. A pair of orcas was in Arthur Harbor. They swam near the surface, sleek backs glistening. These enormous predators sometimes take bites out of boats, mistaking a Zodiac for a seal or a penguin. We slowed the engine and held back. A small group of adelays was porpoising in the water. In a quick stroke, one orca grabbed a penguin in its huge mouth and whirled the helpless bird in the air. Teeth gripped penguin flesh. Penguin wings flailed. The skin of the penguin flew away and landed with a plop on the sea. The bird was stripped of its hide as easily as we remove a sweater. The second orca took a penguin before the pair surged out of the harbor, leaving a swirling wake behind. We sped back to Palmer, aware that what we'd seen was a reminder that we are in a wilderness where a delicate balance exists between predator and prey. Let's look at these paragraphs right here, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th paragraph, and think about the text structure and the main idea. And as I read, I realize this part of the selection shows a sequence of events. That would be the text structure. It describes what happens first, next, and last when the orcas attack the penguins. The last sentence in the paragraph 5 tells what the author thinks about what she's seen. Right here, she says, aware that what we'd seen was a reminder that we are in a wilderness where a delicate balance exists between predator and prey. That is the main idea, that there is a delicate balance between predator and prey in the wilderness. The sequence of events provide details that support this main idea. Let's finish her letter. I'm tired, although I have the big eye. This is when we can't sleep because it's never dark. We get silly and wide-eyed, peculiar in our behavior until a friend says, "Time for bed," and sees that we get there. Love and hugs, Jay. Okay, now it's December 20th, Palmer Station. I have learned that the largest animal on Earth, the 100-ton blue whale, eats only one of the smallest animals on Earth, krill, Euphausia superba. There are more krill in the seas than there are stars in the visible universe. Okay, let's look at that word visible. Okay, in the Latin root vis means to see. So what do you think visible means? Well, you can recognize the Latin root vis in other words such as vision and visual. Since those words have to do with seeing, I understand vis must mean to see, so visible universe must mean all the stars I can see in the night sky. So visible is something that can be seen. Krill is one link in a simple food chain. Penguins, seals, and whales eat krill. In turn, the tiny shrimp-like krill eat phytoplankton, one-celled plants that bloom in the sea in spring and summer. My new friend Carl, an oceanographer, said, "We ought to try eating krill since so many animals thrive on it." In the biolab, we scooped krill into a jar. We got a small fry pan, then melted butter and cooked up the krill. Someone said, "Add garlic." Somebody said, "How about pepper and salt?" These were added. When the mixture looked ready, we ate it. "Tastes like butter," one person said. "More like garlic," another said. "Tastes like butter and garlic," Carl said. Krill don't have their own taste, I concluded. So who's speaking at the bottom of this page? All right, that's the author plus her friend Carl and other people who are cooking krill in the biolab. All right, December 21st, Palmer Station. A storm has raged for 3 days. A blast of wind smacked the main window with such force we thought a bomb had gone off. The storm rose in intensity in minutes. Looking out the big window, we see a solid wall of sleet and blowing snow. A friend and I checked the wind speed monitor a few hours ago. It was clocking 80 knots. We decided to sneak outside and see what 80-knot winds feel like. It's against rules to leave the protection of the station in such high winds. Nobody saw us leave. We were barely able to force the door open against the gale. Head down, face stung with driven sleet, I leaned with all my weight on the wind and did not fall over. Fearing I'd be blown away, I pressed my mittened hands on the side of the building. We crawled on hands and knees, lashed by pellets of frozen rain. In 5 minutes, we were back inside. Thinking of the penguins and their chicks on Lichtfield, I can't help wondering how many will die of exposure to the cold and wet. I know it's Christmas Eve, December 24th, Palmer Station. It was 3 a.m, bright outside, and I couldn't sleep. I crept downstairs, signed out, and took the flagged trail up the glacier. Dressed in a watchman's cap, 3 layers under my parka, and sorrel boots, I climbed in a stillness broken only by the noise of snow crunching under my soles. Greenish-purple clouds covered the sky from edge to edge. The sea was the color of pewter. Near the top, I heard a cracking sound, a slap magnified 1,000,000 times in my ear. Another followed, then another. Echoes of sound, aftershocks, sizzled in the air. The sky began to glow with an eerie luminescence, as if someone in the heavens had switched on a neon light in place of the sun. I felt myself dropping straight down. A crack had appeared under me, a crevice in the glacier. Summer softening of the ice had thrown the pole settings off. I'm alive because the crack was narrow. I fell to my shoulders, my boot soles too wide to fit through the bottom of the crack. I stared below into a blue-green hole cut with facets like a diamond. After a few breaths, I began to scramble out. Terrified the crack would keep growing, I moved slowly. It was an hour before I was on firm ice. The color of the sky shifted to blue-gray with streaks of yellow along the western horizon. To my horror, I saw a pattern of cracks zigzagging like fractured window glass across the glacier surface. Let's look at the simile here. She says that the cracks look like a fractured window glass. So think of, have you ever seen broken glass when it's not shattered but it just has cracks in it? That's what the ice looks like. Let's continue on. I checked my watch. I had been gone 3 hours. I don't know why, but I didn't want anyone rescuing me. I decided to crawl down the glacier on hands and knees. Why do you think the author doesn't want anyone rescuing her? She probably wants to show that she can get herself out of trouble without anyone else's help. All right, let's go on. I felt my way inch by inch, rubbing the surface of the snow with my palms before making a move. Back before the hour, someone would have come looking for me. I told the station manager what happened. Trained in glaciology, he went up the glacier to reset the flags. Let's look at that word, glaciology. Okay, the Latin root, ology, means the study of. So let's think what glaciology means. It looks like the term glaciology is created by adding the suffix ology to the word glacier. This makes me think that glaciology means the study of glaciers, and that meaning makes sense in the paragraph. I have a new weariness tonight, born of having been frightened out of my wits while watching one of the most beautiful skies I'll ever see. February 16th, on the Polar Duke. I am along on a trip of the Polar Duke, north of Palmer and Gerlache Strait. The crew and scientists trawl for krill using fine mesh nets dropped off the stern. Coming back, we see icebergs drifting south out of the Weddell Sea. The icebergs originate hundreds of miles away and ride ocean currents. We sail close, but not too close, for beneath the waves is where the bulk of an iceberg is. Seawater splashes up on iceberg shores shaped by years of wave action. Sunlight strikes gleaming ramparts that shine with rainbow colors. Erosion works at the ice, creating caves and hollows, coves and inlets. Penguins and seals hitch rides on icebergs. Gulls and other seabirds rest on high points. One iceberg collides in slow motion with another. The smaller one topples, rolls, and heaves like a dying rhinoceros. Emerald seawater mixed with spray, drenching its surfaces. So let's look at this paragraph right here. What does the author compare an iceberg after it collides with a bigger one? And she compares it to a dying rhinoceros. And let's make sure we have the vocabulary word here. Icebergs. Remember, icebergs are large masses of ice detached from a glacier and floating in the sea. Last paragraph. I yearn to ride an iceberg like a penguin or a gull, touching its frozen sides, drifting slowly on the waves. I draw them, but I can't capture their splendor. And then March 12th, winging home. Remember that she left November 12th, and she was going to be gone 4 months. So she was gone November, December, January, and February, and now she's coming home in March. March 12th, winging home. Before leaving, I collected, with permission, a sterile penguin egg that would never hatch. I made room for it in my suitcase by giving a lot of my clothes away. The airline lost my bag in Miami. I told the airline people that I had to have it back, pleading, begging. It has a penguin egg in it, I said. They glanced at each other and eyed me funny. Why do you think that the people in the airport eyed her funny? All right. Or what does that mean? All right. She means they looked at her in an odd or suspicious way. Perhaps they weren't sure if she was telling the truth or what she was talking about. Fortunately for me and them, they found the bag. The egg reminds me of my trip to the place where penguins raise downy chicks, krill swarm in numbers greater than stars in the sky, whales have rights, and icebergs drift in graceful arcs across southern ocean swells. At home, I'll look out at the desert landscape and remember the Antarctic desert, the last great wilderness on Earth. So let's think about the general text structure of this selection. The author uses chronological order to tell about her experiences in Antarctica. And then let's look at this last paragraph to find the main idea of the whole selection. Okay, right here she tells us that Antarctica is the last great wilderness on Earth.